Well, welcome to the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast. I'm Jimmy Page. Today, we're going to talk about religious freedom, specifically as it relates to freely expressing your faith on college and university campuses. Now, as most of our audience knows, colleges and universities have largely been taken over by woke ideologies and have become hostile environments for almost all speech, seen as religious, conservative, pro-America, even pro-freedom. In fact, Christian students are often afraid to share their views on campus because they're afraid of the negative backlash, and many have chosen to bury their beliefs so it doesn't affect their grades or their ability to graduate. That's where we are today, and in many ways, that is just the tip of the iceberg. Well, our guest today is Jeff Ozanne. He's the founder of an organization called the Free Exercise Coalition, a nonprofit organization whose singular purpose is to build back the space of religious expression in higher education. I got to tell you, we need this more now than ever. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. Happy to be here. So I guess a little bit about me I can start with is I'm kind of old to be a law school student. So I'm 31 years old and I am a retired recovering engineer. So I was a design engineer for about a decade, and then I took over the legal department for the corporation.
Wait a minute. So you're trained as an engineer, and then you decided to just punt that degree. Is that what I'm saying?
So kind of use it. Intellectual property law has a nexus with engineering and tech, kind of, but relatively speaking, I think that's fair.
So now you're on the legal side. Tell us a little bit about that. And then tell us also about what motivated you to start the Free Exercise Coalition.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm VP of Legal Operations for the McPherson Companies, and that includes the world's largest bow manufacturer. We make compound bows.
Oh, nice.
We have a large guitar company and a Christian radio network, a large Christian foundation, and some other things. And so I mostly do intellectual property litigation and then other in-house transactional, type needs.
Okay, so listen, you must have thought of this then, because my name is Jimmy Page, and there is a famous guitarist. So is there any way that you can help me litigate and get some of his royalties? There's got to be an opportunity here.
Yeah, I mean, I like the outcome that you're going for. So we'll talk about that potentially.
That's right. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So, thought a law degree would probably be useful with the trajectory that my career was going. And so there's now a few hybrid JD programs approved by the ABA, meaning you can sit for state bars in all 50 states, except for New York at the moment. But I'm on my third year, so I have about a year left of law school. And so maybe last fall, I was like, man, I've been going to this law school. I'm situated uniquely. Hybrid JD students are situated uniquely on law school campuses to weather a lot of the pressures that academia might throw at you if you share your beliefs and that sort of thing. And so I was like, man, I could not walk through this law school campus and ever tell that a Christian stepped foot in the campus.
Wow.
And even more troubling, I mean, we've had no First Amendment lectures in our constitutional law classes. And it's like, wow. I think it's time that let's make this a small student organization. I mean, we're happily nobodies. Yeah. Just a few hybrid JD students. We have careers. We don't need your recommendations. We don't need your GPA if that's going to be an issue, and that sort of thing. And we'll hire each other, and we'll find each other jobs. And we're happy to do that, and we kind of know how the world works. Back when you're 22 years old and you're going into the halls of academia in a law school, everybody's smart. Most people are smarter than you. Professors are smarter than you, right? It's intimidating.
Yeah.
But being in the professional world for a while, it's like a lot of that stuff doesn't matter at all. But it's so hard to get there when you're a law school student. I mean, even in my undergrad, I remember thinking I have to pass a certain threshold. I have to be prepared enough to actually live out my faith as I'm called to do, as I'm supposed to do in the public sphere, right? Yes. And so it was like once I graduate, then I'm going to chase after Christ,
Right.
or once I graduate, land a job, then I will, and then I'll be prepared to, or like once I have a family and I need to, right?
Yeah.
And like there's all these little like lies that we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
that are forced upon us that really disadvantage the Christian from living how a Christian is supposed to be.
Mm.
And I think that's purposeful of the enemy, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided to start the Free Exercise Coalition last year, on our campus, just a few hybrid JD students. And really what we thought we were going to do is just like inform, especially the residential students, that it's okay to be a Christian.
Mm.
It's okay to say that you're a Christian. It's illegal to say that you're a Christian in the law school environment and in your careers and in the public sphere. Like all this stuff is okay.
Yeah.
The law's there. The jurisprudence is there. The First Amendment is there. I know that you're not getting taught all of that now. So like, let's band together, learn this stuff together and support each other,
Yeah.
especially hybrid JD students. Let's support the residential students.
Mm.
We can find them jobs. We have networks, if that's actually going to be an issue.
Right.
But closet Christianity doesn't work. Closet any religion doesn't work.
Right.
And we're happy to essentially help anybody. We thought we were going to help people.
Yeah. So
with
let me
like
jump
religious
in there real
accommodation.
quick. Couple of observations real quick. First of all, you said something real interesting, that you wouldn't have known on this campus that there was really a Christian presence. That's kind of alarming a little bit. But I think it underscores the need for why you wanted to start this organization, so that, number one, probably you could draw out some of the believers who may have been hesitant to talk about their faith. Another thing that you said was that they weren't talking about, in your constitutional law classes, they weren't talking about free speech. They weren't talking about the First Amendment, for example, religious expression. That's super concerning. And it's a little bit shocking to me to hear that, because it seems like a constitutional law class would probably start with the Constitution and then the Bill of Rights. Seems rather natural. Did that alarm you a little bit that that wasn't part of the subject material?
It did, and it was integral in the formation of our organization, right? Because one, we felt a duty to help inform other students of like there's actually a lot of protections here for religious students and religious persons in the United States. That's a big reason why we're exceptional as a nation. And then two, we need a platform to be able to lobby for these issues,
right?
And a platform with leverage with the law school to have these classes and this type of like education available, especially to like hybrid JD students, where we have very minimal exposure to a lot of your elective type classes,
right?
That a residential student might even have. And so it was kind of twofold, but that was pivotal in our decision to organize.
I love the fact that you organized a group, because it shows, first of all, a lot of people feel very isolated on these campuses. And one of my sons works for Charlie Kirk. He's the founder of a conservative organization called Turning Point USA. I'm sure that your organization will connect with them if you haven't already. I'm sure of it. They have organized student-led groups on over 3,500 college and high school campuses, and they regularly invite speakers in for events on these campuses. And I had an opportunity to attend an event with him at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Now, this is a super liberal area. It's a super liberal university. But because the opposition to free speech and the conservative message and our constitutional rights is becoming so confrontational, these events now require significant security. That evening, even one of the agitators in the crowd had to be escorted out of the meetings because they were being so agitated. They used dogs to remove him because he was so animated. And then, of course, you've seen other speakers on campuses like Riley Gaines, who's speaking out against the trans competition in women's sports. And those who are opposed to free speech are regularly shouting down, or they're silencing guests on campuses. Now, you started this organization on this campus. There is a little bit of irony that this is a law school that's violating the Constitution. Kind of, little bit of irony there by regulating free speech. Tell us, when you started this organization, you were opposed, right? You had opposition. Tell us a little bit about what happened as you started to get this recognized as an official group on campus.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, it's becoming more and more tumultuous every day, every week that it goes on. And so, like I said, I mean, we created the organization to inform people the space that there was. We were naive enough to assume that there was room for us on campus and within the conversation. There was room for Christian beliefs in the conversation. Amazing. Well, it turns out that that's not so. And so this small organization that we were starting, just to help people, like show them where the law actually was, is now turned into something quite a bit different. Right. And now our purposes and our drive is expanded dramatically from where it was. So we started as any student organization would. I mean, we didn't have a C3 or anything yet. Right. We just started, and we requested to be affiliated as a recognized student group on campus, just like all the other student groups. I mean, we have FedSoc, Lambda, Diversity Coalition. I mean, every student group that you can imagine. I mean, it's not a big law school, but there's a lot of student organizations. Amazing. And it's important to like the culture of a campus. And so, in our affiliation hearing, I knew that they would be upset about us. And so, backtracking a little bit of why they had such an issue with us is we have a statement of belief for our board members. And so our board members are obviously who's running the organization. And, as I had a year and a half left of law school, and the founding members, most of us were going to be graduating within the next year, we wanted to ensure that the Free Exercise Coalition was going to stay alive and well on campus and be run by like-minded individuals, right? It's just going to be a single, solitary campus organization, wasn't going to be expanded to other law schools and that sort of thing. So our statement of belief, very broad, very generic. We are all Christians that started the organization, but we made it so Ben Shapiro, Billy Graham, the Pope, they could all sign on to it. Broad Judeo-Christian principles. Right. We had 3 negative recitations, and the negative recitations we thought were important for canons of interpretation of Scripture, of objective truth and morality, and then also to whittle out those who are not going to be bold, which is the whole purpose of the organization, is being bold enough to not put your beliefs in the closet, not to put Christianity in the closet, but to tell people what the beliefs are, have those truths in the conversation to talk about and debate and discuss. And so our negative recitations were gender ideologies incompatible with Judeo-Christian beliefs, same-sex marriage is incompatible with traditional Judeo-Christian beliefs, and also abortion is incompatible, right? Like those 3 hot topics. Yep. Well, that is what turned the affiliation meeting into a firestorm. And so, we entered in, and it's the job of the Student Board Association, which are law school students that are acting on behalf of the university as government actors, and it's a public university, as government actors, to vote on whether or not to affiliate or not to affiliate. Wow.
So was this a public meeting then?
They have a public comment. It was open to all law school students, and it went for about an hour, and the hour was nothing but us fielding criticisms of our beliefs, attacks on us personally. I mean, we're called hateful bigots, oppressors, problem for the university to solve. Wow. There's even students saying that, since our law school is so risk adverse, this student organization doesn't appear to have national backing, this would be the time to make a statement and block them, illegally block them. What was the connotation of that? Risking a lawsuit, knowing that they had no legal basis to block us, but blocking us anyways, because we weren't big and powerful enough to topple the law school or to sue the law school or to win in a lawsuit with the law school and the public university system of New Hampshire, which is just completely asinine as a law school student. I mean, we're here to respect the law. We identify it, right? And we navigate it appropriately. Well, they're identifying the law. They realize that it's inappropriate to stop us, and they're trying to stop us because we were the little guys. Unreal. So, it all transpired. The SBA refused to affiliate us. They refused to affiliate us. They said that, our facts were different. So previously, the Christian Legal Society was blocked. They had a demand letter from attorneys, and then they were allowed. Somehow, our case was different than that because our statement of beliefs was even more specific, right? We're denying the existence of law school students on campus is their narrative. It's a framing war at this point, right? They have to frame us as the bad, hateful bigots so that they can try to pretextually block us. So they blocked us. I had done some work with First Liberty in the past, and I was like, you know what? I'll just like ping them because I mean, I'm partial to pro se litigations. I'm a fool enough to litigate pro se. I was like, I think there's a case here. I think I'm just going to try to sue him over Christmas break, right? This was Christmas break. I've got like 2 weeks, all this free time. I'll just write a complaint and start a litigation and see where it goes. And so I reached out to First Liberty for some advice, and they're like, we want this case. Let's take this because this is a big deal. This is a law school campus. And as a sidebar, it's kind of interesting, like the Frankfurt School, like critical theories, I mean, they've passed through law schools and they filter their way down. So I feel like there's no better way to address these false narratives of what truth actually is, right? Back at the law schools and let it filter back down again. It's hard to go back upward, right? Yeah. So anyways, First Liberty took it. They sent a demand letter. It was on Fox News within a week of this all transpiring. It was all, we had news organizations on both sides calling us everything you could, whatever. At the end of the day, I have thick skin. I don't care that you're like maligning me personally and that sort of thing, but don't use that to disadvantage the religious speech from the conversation or block it entirely, which is what they were doing. They're blocking our existence on campus as a student organization. And so that blew up, ended up in January of this year being affiliated at the next student board meeting. Which
all right, hold on 1 second.
Month and a half later.
Let me jump in. I don't want to fast forward too quickly. First of all, the friends at First Liberty is amazing, right? First Liberty, absolutely amazing. They are on the front lines of defending free speech, religious speech in particular. It's amazing. And so thank God you had that. But I think what troubles me most, and I know what's going to trouble our listeners most, is they thought that they could bully you out of this. Oh, they're not a national organization. They don't have resources to come after us. They're not going to contest this. Let's get a win. That bothers me so much because people think in terms of America being a democracy, which we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And thank God we're not a democracy because a democracy is mob rule. It actually means that those that are in power can maintain power. And it doesn't look out for the little guy. So I am so thankful that we're a constitutional republic. We are ruled by law. And we have these guiding principles that we can go back on, because if we were a pure democracy, you would have had no chance. So thankfully, First Liberty took this up and it's okay. So now let's fast forward a little bit. Well, before we get to the place where you get accepted as a group on campus, you had a lot of opposition, right? A growing opposition. In fact, I know there was some conflict around the flag that you wanted to display. But there was open hostility. And the reason this matters to me is you have thick skin, therefore you were able to do it. What I am concerned about is that most people see what you're going through and think, oh my gosh, do I really want to go through that to take a stand? But I think we live in a day where we need that kind of courage. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, I think that's why organizations like First Liberty and now hopefully FEC, at least on our campus, and all these other organizations that will come in and have your back, right?
Yes.
It's so important because you're not alone. Because if I was alone, I mean, I would be buried in all sorts right now. Yeah. And probably FEC wouldn't exist if it wasn't for an organization like First Liberty. And that's the whole reason why we wanted to form and exist on campus, was to show the other Christians, to show the other religious students that you're not alone on campus.
Yes.
You can do this. It's legal to do this, and we'll have your back and we'll help you.
It's great.
We'll show you how, right? And we'll give you the opportunity to have these conversations. And
so good.
So, yeah, there's been plenty of open hostility, and I'll get to some of that because a lot of that has happened even since we've been affiliated. I mean, some of the grossest stuff has happened since we've been affiliated and
right?
continues to. I mean, the last couple of weeks, right, has been like pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
let's talk about that, because I think this is important, right? That because a lot of times we think that this is a passive agenda. This is not a passive agenda. And when you start to bring truth to the marketplace of ideas, so to speak, boy, you really do draw out someone's true colors. And I read a couple of headlines of stories. So I want to read these to you, because I think this is going to give you an opportunity to talk about what was happening in these moments. And then after that, let's talk about what's happening most recently. But one of the headlines was this, and I love the way things are framed, right? This is from New Hampshire Public Radio. Student group with anti-LGBT positions alleges religious discrimination at UNH Law School. I mean, right out of the box, they're positioning you as anti-LGBTQ rather than for the values, the core values, which, by the way, are traditional Christian values. These are mainstream Christian orthodoxy. So what happens when that story comes out? What happens? How do you react to this?
Yeah. So again, as hybrid JD students, I don't have to walk on campus every day. There are students that are affiliated with us that walk on campus every day as well. I mean, obviously, there's a degree of ostracization from your fellow classmates and professors, and there's all sorts of things that have come out. And we've had a lot of right to know requests where we see emails back and forth from professors and all this stuff, and a lot of other troubling things that we can get into and some that we can't. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, even with thick skin. I mean, it's like, well, they really don't want us here. And so unfortunately, it's a battle to fight, to even exist, to say what we believe. And it just annoys me so much. And I say it too. Yeah. I have to say it all the time on campus because we've had a lot of opposition right from our own side, or from the other side. Like, well, why do you have to say that? Or why do you have to do this? Or why is that important? Or, I mean, for me, why in the world do I have to qualify Christian values as traditional Christian values now? Right. No, they're Christian values, and I do it too. I call it traditional Christian values because we have to. Yeah. But why do we have to? So, I think there's a lot in the church that we need to address, but it does make it hard for Christians living out traditional Christian values on the front lines, because we have to do the framing from both angles. We have to frame what we're for. Jesus Christ loves the transgender student, 100%. Like, it's not a question in my mind. Died for them, wants to spend eternity with them, created them, right? Though we're in sin, okay? Just like, it's sin. And the sin isn't, I mean, for me, all I care about is like telling you about the gospel message. Right. And that's what I'm doing. I don't need to delineate sin with someone that's not a Christian. Right. It doesn't matter. But it's important for my organization, as a religious organization, to set ourselves up. It's sensical, with like-minded believers, with people that interpret Scripture similarly, to run the organization. Yes. And we're willing to help people that don't agree with us, or are opposed to us, or a humanist, or are a Buddhist, or Hindu, or something like that. It doesn't matter. Like we'll help you. You have First Amendment protections too. Let's help you. But right now, it's so important for us because the traditional Christian is the one, we have limited resources that we can leverage ourselves efficiently to help protect, because they're the ones getting maligned and attacked and blocked all the time. Yep. And so right now we're focusing on that. We're working with the Christian Legal Society on a lot of different issues to that are important on campus, and we can get into some of that too. Yeah. But yeah, so that's a long-winded way of saying yes. Yeah. It's not right. Yeah. And it doesn't feel good to be maligned and attacked on a personal level, and to be a Christian, like with the burden of like how do I share like the love of Jesus Christ with you, right? Mm-hmm. And not compromise on truth, because that's not love at all anymore. Right. And people like throw around the word love carelessly. I was like, no, we're supposed to share truth. We're supposed to share the gospel message is, what the love of Christ is, and then to like have that framed poorly framed as, the new Vogue thing now is like the traditional Christian is dangerous.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
dangerous on campus. It's like people
Yes.
won't even be on campus if we're on campus. Like they're afraid that we're going to go shoot up the campus, and it's all baseless, completely baseless. But it's a complete framing war
Yes.
because we have to be the bad guys, and we
Yes.
have to be something other than someone trying to tell people about our Christian beliefs, right? We
Yeah.
have to be something other than that for them to have a hope of like creating a narrative around us to
Yes.
try to stop us. And
Yes.
so it's a complete framing war. And so
Yeah.
we have to frame ourselves constantly on both sides.
It's amazing.
Um,
I do think
yeah,
too, like you said, they're seen as dangerous. The narrative that is going out is these deeply held religious beliefs are dangerous, and that they don't have a seat at the table anymore, that they're inconsistent with a university's values. And because of that, of course, they're being treated differently. Your organization's being treated differently. I'm assuming now people who identify with your organization or who are members and participate, I'm sure that they're being treated differently. What's the effect of the groups? I mean, you said there's a whole bunch of groups coming together now to kind of defend religious freedom, but at the same time, the battle's heating up. What's the effect on the students that are on that campus? And are there any professors? Are there any people in the university community that are supporting you? What's that look like?
there are groups, national groups that will defend, the traditional Christian student.
Yeah.
On campus, there's most of the groups are opposed to us, and those are like usually the hateful voices that are coming out, like maligning us and attacking us, are coming from student organizations and
Wow.
from members of other student organizations that
Wow.
are passionate about the culture of the campus, right? And so we've got all sorts of groups, and they give each other awards for opposing our ideologies, and they have marches against us. And the entire student body of the law school has staged and filmed on news walkout on campus, chanting against the hate groups on campus. From the basic existence that there are Christian groups on campus, they find so deplorable, so despicable that they won't even attend class. They'll walk out of their class to show the administration and to try to force the administration into getting rid of us. And obviously, the administration wants to get rid of us. We go back and forth with the administration on a number of issues all the time. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a public university. It's basic free speech. And it's, I mean, there's no short of irony in all of this because one, we're in New Hampshire. The state slogan of New Hampshire is "Live free or die."
Exactly.
Right? This is basic speech.
God.
There's a huge free speech movement in New Hampshire. So, we've had politicians on both sides of the aisle come out in support of us behind the scenes and publicly, supporting. I mean, it's basic free speech ideas. You don't have to agree with us, but I mean, this is First Amendment law. This is why we're an exceptional country. And they may hate our beliefs, but they'll fight for our right to share our beliefs, right?
Wow.
And there's few and far between, but there are people on both sides of the aisle that are willing to do so. As far as professors, I would say the vast majority of the professors that I'm aware of are vehemently opposed to our ability to share beliefs on campus, so much so that they'll protest our chance of being in student conversations, protest in support of their student groups. And there's a lot of like troubling things that are out there. I don't know. There was one news article, and it's very, very frustrating. One, I mean, I'm concerned about the brand of our organization. What we're here to do. It's a framing war. Our brand is important to us, but we also need to be very, very careful about the record that we're creating, because we're legally adverse, and we've had to be legally adverse with the law school for a long time now. And this could easily escalate, more than it is right now.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful about that. Well, anyways, I don't know who did it. I assume faculty, just from some of the circumstances, but they're trying to throw our group into like criminal activity, as far as like filming professors, like having a meeting apparently about Christian students on campus. One, why were they having that meeting? Two, I
Right.
really want to see this film if it's out, and it might be out there right now. I don't know. And three, this became a big deal at our law school because the dean sent out an email because Fox News like had some secret recording of these professors talking about, all this stuff on
Wow.
campus. So, I mean, but they throw my group in there, right? Because it's a framing, because we had to be the bad guys. We had to be the criminals.
Yeah.
So we're not just a hateful group anymore. Like, we're potentially criminals. No one's safe on campus around us. And it's like, it's completely absurd and baseless. And it's very cavalier. It's very careless to like try to harm the reputation of a student organization.
Yeah.
And for me, like the real burden is, I mean, I'm supposed to be an ambassador for Christ and share the
Yes.
love of Christ. And it's constantly back and forth of like, no, I'm not the bad guy. No, I'm not a criminal. No, I don't hate you. No, I don't deny your existence. Right. Like it's constantly over and over again. But I do believe, like, I think sin separates from our Creator. I think it's important for the Christian to understand what sin is and to delineate that line, and not to back away from the truth because you're scared you're not being loving, right? Because that's not loving at all.
That's right.
And so it's a constant tension. It's a constant pull back and forth. But long story short is there is not many that have our back on that campus.
Wow.
So,
and it's creating a climate of conflict, right? It's a constant conflict. And I would be more concerned about those that are protesting against you, what they're willing to do. And we're seeing a ton of that. We're seeing destruction of property. We're seeing violence. We're seeing assault. We're actually seeing people who are taking a biblical stand be physically assaulted. So I would be concerned, and maybe that's part of the agenda, would be to make you fearful of that or concerned about that. I think one of the things that I read, though, and you can, fill me in on this, but the law school dean, Megan Carpenter, came out with I think a written statement. And I think in that statement, she said that the university is committed to the free and open exchange of ideas, active discourse, debate. Now, obviously, that's a legal statement, of course. But she said all members of the community, right, have the right to hold and vigorously defend and promote their opinions. That exercise of their free speech and that right might result in people being exposed to ideas they may not like. And that's kind of what it means to live in America and to live in a free society. We're not guaranteed we're not going to be offended or disagree with someone, but that's the beauty of a college environment, which is supposed to be the free exchange of ideas. Is she standing with you? Is the dean of the law? She's certainly standing with the Constitution, as she says that. Is she standing with you, or is that just a public-facing comment?
Yeah, I've never had a personal conversation with Dean Carpenter.
Wow.
I'd like to. I've had plenty of conversations with the associate deans, but not with Dean Carpenter. So if she's watching this, let's chat.
It's an invitation right here. That's an open invitation.
Yeah. Let's jump on this podcast and have a conversation about this, because I mean, I appreciate that statement. I agree with that statement. I have concerns that it's just lip service. And I think I'll default to everything as lip service on both sides, unless there's action supporting it. And so, for instance, right now, since last year, there's been a pending request at the law school to display the Christian flag on campus with the same prominence and in the same forum as the law school happily displays a pride flag in our cafeteria. And the law school created this public forum. We're in the First Circuit, the circuit of Shurtleff v. Boston from last year, right? The Christian flag in Boston, where the Supreme Court unanimously knocked down the city of Boston for denying the Christian flag when they created this forum anyways. And the law school, this entire time, it's been, one of the main arguments back and forth with the law school is their ability to deny. And so they've tried to change policy. They've tried to invoke government speech. They've tried to do a number of different things to slow walk and deny a request to display the Christian flag in the same forum. They're in the business of endorsing viewpoints anyways. What's the issue with having the Christian flag up? It's legal. It's correct. And if you care about the culture, if you care about having hard conversations and having dialogue and discussion, if you truly care about that, what's the issue with the Christian flag display? From my perspective, symbolism and things like that, I think can be abused on all sides and can be unimportant, even though people make them important in some circumstances. This is a circumstance where it lines up squarely with what our organization wants to do. We want to show, especially the residential student, you're not alone on this campus as a traditional Christian. It's okay to show these beliefs. You need to, you should. It should be in the conversation. Here, it's in your cafeteria. There's a flag up. It's going to come up during your tenure at the law school, probably multiple times at your lunch table, what this Christian flag is. Here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity to identify with it, to share what you believe. I mean, that's what we should do anyways. This is like a very organic way to start a conversation, which is the hardest part about sharing your beliefs or sharing anything of personal importance is like, how do you even start that? Well, here's the opportunity. So it's an issue that we're willing to take as far as what we need to take.
It's great.
Yeah. And it's still ongoing. They're still blocking us. And so as for Megan Carpenter's email, if that's truly the law school stance, and the law school's taken some interesting stances, well, then show us. For instance, the law school's policy says the law school has anti-discrimination policies against race, gender, orientation, all that stuff, and they leave out religion. The law school leaves out religion as a public university, but the University of New Hampshire system, UNH, all these other public systems have the same anti-discrimination policy, but religion's in there. Of course. So why is it even blocked out of the law school's own policy? When you start tracking all this stuff backwards, I think, one, there's a lot of room for improvement, if nothing else. I'd love to be able to come on here and be like, hey, University of New Hampshire, Franklin Pierce, they've got this free speech thing down. Like they're taking actions, they're saying the right things and they're doing the right things. And I think we might get there. Okay. But we're not there yet. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of collaboration to do. And we have honestly a lot of instruction to do. Instruction from the student body of like, welcome to a public university. Tough conversations are going to happen. I'm going to have tough conversations. You have to be okay with it, right? And so, that's our whole goal now on campus, and I love it. And that's kind of phase one of what the Free Exercise Coalition is about.
I love it, and I do think it's one of those things that's really concerning to the everyday American who will hear about a Supreme Court level case being settled in favor of religious freedom and expression, and then other universities like UNH Law School completely ignoring Supreme Court level precedent. I mean, it's one of the things that drives me bonkers about this. When the Supreme Court makes a decision, it should affect behavior throughout the country. And these are the types of things that drive us nuts. Why isn't this being enforced at University of New Hampshire? And then I was thinking, all of these schools are like this. Stanford Law School, shouting down speakers, silencing speakers, having violent protests against people who come to their campus just to express a different opinion. Well, tell us real quick in the last minute or so, do you have a vision for this, for the Free Exercise Coalition starting clubs on other campuses?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, right now, our bandwidth is taken up trying to create back this space. We hope to focus on our members and expanding the organization as well as we can. Like, ultimately speaking, and a little bit different than a lot of other student organizations at the law school level or downward, is we really want to create this like self-supporting ecosystem. So the Free Exercise Coalition, if we're looking at an isolated law school at Regent University or Liberty University or one of these other, Christian law schools, there's no need for it, right? However, if we look at it across the nation, I mean, how awesome would it be if law school students at Regent could help the law school students at Franklin Pierce or the law school students at Stanford or somewhere
Yes.
else, because I mean, it's a lot to weather. It's a total time suck. Law school already sucks.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do, and our bandwidth, I mean, we're just completely taken up, right?
Yeah.
And so how awesome would it be if we could actually be the body of Christ, if we could actually be
Yeah.
First Amendment proponents and help those that need the help, even though you're not situated in the controversy. If the controversy crosshairs aren't directly on you, like, let's help each other. And so the Free Exercise Coalition, we're looking to become affiliated across the nation at law schools, even law schools that don't necessarily need it themselves, but are willing to help each other and help instruct, inform each other, and watch it grow from there. But yeah, I mean, we're in our infancy, and as long as we're getting traction, we're keeping the pedal down. So
I love that. Well, Jeff, thanks so much. I mean, thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for standing in the gap. Thanks for taking a stand for Christ, a bold stand for Christ. And I think it is going to be the name of the game is going to be us coming together in order to defend our God-given rights and our constitutionally protected rights. So, Jeff, thanks so much. Any way we can fan the flame, we're going to do it. And we'll be praying for you as you continue to fight in New Hampshire. Thanks, my friend.
Appreciate it, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.